If you're looking to get started with email marketing properly, well, you've probably seen the top marketers in the world like Alex Hormozy, Amy Porterfield, Ryan Dice, Natalie Ellis, all those people all saying how their email list is where they make most of their sales. And yeah, typing words and clicking buttons really sounds very simple, but when you start to sit down and try to do it, you can hit a lot of issues. Maybe you're worried about what to say in your emails, how to write a good email that's not boring. Do emails even work now while we get so many of them that we just ignore? And how long is it going to take you to make sales? I'm going to show you how to send really good emails really quickly, even if you think you're a shitty writer or if you think you've got absolutely fuck all to say that's interesting. That's what we're going to do in today's show. So you want to do some really good email marketing? Awesome. One of the things you have to remember about this email marketing thing is that email marketing is marketing. It's a type of marketing. And when you look back at how most marketing works, it's about repetition. Like, it's very, very, very rare that any of us has ever seen an ad for something and gone straight away and just bought the thing. Like, we just bought a bunch of new pans for the kitchen, right? And these really cool pans. But I must have been seeing the ads for these pans for maybe 18 months now. So that took a while. Now, they were fairly expensive pans, in the hundreds of dollars price range. So they weren't super cheap, but also there are much more expensive pans. But I had to see the ad over and over again. Take a great example of one of the advertising giants of the world, Red Bull. Red Bull, all they do every single time they run an ad is they find a brand new way of dressing up the message Red Bull gives you wings with a new story, a new plot, a new little thing that's happening in their very distinctive looking ads. Basically, their job when they're creating new ads is to find new ways of dressing up the story that Red Bull gives you wings. Obviously, this episode is not sponsored. It could be. It could be. Hint, hint, hello. But let's really look at what we have to do in email marketing. One of the things we have to do is remember that we should be repeating the things that we say in our emails. Not every single thing, but the core message. Like, Red Bull changes its ads, but the core message that Red Bull gives you wings doesn't change. It always ends up leading to that point. And it's the same for your message. So if you're a person who helps people with back pain, everything you do is about dressing up this idea of we can fix your back pain in a brand new way. You got to dress it up in a brand new way. And one of the things I love most about email, apart from the fact that it gives you lots of sales, Red Bull gives you wings, email gives you sales, right? It's one of the things that I love about email is that compared to social media, no one actually can see how many subscribers you've got. They don't know, oh, well, you've got X number of followers. They don't know that. So when someone receives an email, it feels like a one-to-one communication, even though we all know it's not, but it also has that idea of being in isolation. They don't know how many other people. So there's no sort of social proof element around your credibility to do with your list size. The other thing that email doesn't have, which means you can just sort of get started and not feel too worried about it, is that people don't see how many others saw your post or how many people liked it or how many views it's at. Like, none of that stuff happens with email. So from the get-go, you already are not on the back foot of people going, I just saw this post but only had 3 likes, or the person only has this many followers or this many subscribers. It doesn't have any of those things. It has the ability for you to show up as an authority without being on the back foot. And that brings me to this discussion of, are you an authority? Well, if you have something to say, if you have something that is new, is interesting and valuable to somebody, then yes, you have something to say. And it sort of reminds me of, there was a con artist, right? Frank Abagnale. He made a movie about him called Catch Me If You Can. And one of the things he did, and one of his scams that he ran at Naughty Man, was he pretended to be a college professor. All he did in order to be this college professor was he read one page ahead of the people in the class, of his students. And I mean, I'm not saying any of us should be con men or con women, and I'm not saying any of us should be as misleading as that, but what it proves to you is that people will still get value if they are just receiving the information that's on the next page of the virtual textbook. Because on the next page, a page they've not turned to, is information they have not learned yet. And that means it is valuable. All right? So the good news is when you are sending these emails, if you send an email today and you haven't done it for a while, or you haven't done it properly for a while, or maybe you've not done it for ages, or maybe you've never done it before, the good news is today is the worst you're ever going to be, right? You're only ever going to get better. Today is the worst at this you're ever going to be. So the sooner you start, the better, right? One of the questions I often ask myself is, what will 2 years from now me thank me for? So a great example of that is here right now, I'm making YouTube videos and look at my views. Like, they're really low. And I'm like, oh my God, people can see that I don't have a gazillion views and I don't have all these comments. I don't have this community. But I know that in 2 years' time, if I commit to this, if I commit to continuing to show up, same with email, if I continue to make a 1% difference, an improvement in each of the videos that I make, same with email, then in 2 years' time, I'll be so grateful that I started on this journey. Like, think about all the things that you wish you'd started 2 years ago because you'd be so much further on. If you'd started sending emails and writing emails, do you not think you would be a better email writer now and be making more sales from email now than you are? Yes, you would, okay? So before I get on to this next piece, I want to share with you that I've got this whole framework for the way that I send emails, right? I call it the Fast and Forever framework. I use it to send emails that make sales not just immediately, but also that they keep making sales over and over again in years to come. And if you want to download that whole framework, go to emailmarketingheroes.com/fast. So I want you to imagine for a second that you wanted to learn to play the guitar, just as I did when I was 13 years old. I was in the first year of my high school. It's called year 9. And I decided I wanted to do something cool to get the attention of some of the ladies, some of the girls I was going to school with. So I'm 13, trying to figure myself out, and I figure one of the only ways of being cool is to be a bit like Bryan Adams and learn to play the guitar and sing. So I booked in, my parents very luckily scraped together, because we didn't have much money as kids growing up, and they scraped together enough money to buy me a series of guitar lessons. I think it was like 10 lessons, like starter lessons. And I was so excited. We went to the local music shop and we rented and we hired an acoustic guitar. It was tiny because I was like a really small kid. I was like all spindly and small. I looked pretty undernourished. I wasn't undernourished, but I looked it, right? I found it very difficult like to put any weight on. I was very skinny little lad. And so I went along and I had this tiny little guitar, and it was like the same size as me. It was kind of funny. And so I went along to my very first private music class, and I got out of my media class to go to my private music class. So off I went to this little I call a practice room, a little private tutorial room, and I go in, and sat there is the coolest dude I've ever seen in my bloody life. This guy's just so cool. He's got long hair, he's got this cool acoustic guitar, and as I walk in, he's like doing all this cool stuff, and I'm like, man, it's going to be a great lesson, because by the end of it, I'm going to be doing that. You guess where this is going, right? So I sit down. He's like, hey, it's nice to meet you. Okay, here's how you hold the guitar. This is what a fret is. This is what you do. Here's a plectrum. And I was like, that's a weird word. And we're about to learn to play the guitar. We're about to do this. And for the next 5 weeks, I learned how to play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Fucking Star on one string on this guitar. And after those weeks, I decided that Twinkle Twinkle Little Star wasn't going to be a way to win over the girls, so I hung up my guitar and I've never touched the guitar since. Well, this is the thing. Like, what we don't want to be doing when we are learning any skill is we want to make sure that we realize that you don't want your first gig when you've just learned to do this thing. If you're learning to play the guitar, you don't want your first gig to be at Madison Square Gardens or the Royal Albert Hall. That's not the right place. What you want when you're first learning to play the guitar, even hopefully you've gone a bit beyond Twinkle Twinkle Little Star on one string, the bottom string, by the way, whatever that's called. I can't remember what it's called. Somebody will be shouting at the screen. Let me know in the comments. What are they called? I can't remember what the name of the different strings are. The bottom one, anyway. We're playing on that. Or was it the top one? No, I think it was the bottom one. Can't remember. Long time ago. And one of the things you don't want to do is you don't want to play in these massive venues. You want the first venue that you play when you actually can play some chords and some stuff like that. You want the first gig you play to be in some back room of some dirty old stinking pub. That's what you want. And it's the same with your emails. Don't expect that when you first send emails that you're going to be playing massive rock songs. You might start off with Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Not so cool, but the good news is there are less people there, right? When you first start sending emails, that's the smallest your list's ever going to be. Whether you've collected some contacts and you've not been in touch with them yet, or you're about to start building that list. We all get our first subscriber. In every new business I have started, we got our first email subscriber. It's a very exciting time. What we want to realize, though, is that we are in the shitty back room of a pub, right? And the good news is that's where we get to be the worst. We're never gonna be in that situation again. So kind of embrace it and be like, cool, let's see how this goes. Because the pressure's not on. You're not walking out on stage to tens of thousands of people who've paid a lot of money, who've got therefore high expectations, and your income is not reliant on that moment. The rest of your career and life is not reliant on that moment. Instead, you get to be bad. Stand-up comedians, when I was doing like comedy and stuff, one of the things that we used to always talk about was, to begin with, because other comedians and other performers used to come to me for advice, and say, the first thing you got to do is find a place to be bad. That was a piece of advice that was bestowed to me by another comedian. And they said, you've got to find a place to be bad. You don't want to be on the Tonight Show or some big, huge late night show or television show or some huge stage trying out new jokes. By the time the jokes get onto those places, they've been tested out in underground basement and loft comedy clubs. That's what happens. So that's what I want you to do with your email marketing. I want you to start now, while your list is as small as it's ever going to be, and send the emails. Get the reps in, right? Because sending bad emails, like bad emails that you've actually sent, will get you more reward than incomplete emails that you don't send. I mean, most of us have got a Google Drive somewhere, which is like an elephant's graveyard of half-completed email templates that we've tried and started, but never sent. Those emails can never make a sale. Those emails can never make a sale, man, right? So I want you to just send some emails, because every time you send, you're going to learn something. Every time we put marketing out, our job is to learn something. It's not to make sales. That's a big thing that a lot of amateurs don't really understand. And people who are looking for get-rich-quick schemes are never going to understand. They want to send an email and instantly have riches drop at their door. Yeah, we all want that, but that's not realistic. Like, I also want to push a button on my computer and have cash fly out of the top of it. That's not going to happen. What we do in email marketing and all marketing is we send stuff out and we get information back. Some of that information might be a number of sales, an amount of money made, but that also is only information. Because what we do then is we take that information and we tweak the next email we send, we tweak the next piece of marketing we send out, and we see if we can improve the number. We can see if we can get better information back. Okay, so that's what I want you to do. I want you to start thinking about sending these emails. So how do you actually do it? Okay, here's some tricks of the trade. The first thing is, what most people do when they go to send an email is they go from having a conversation like you and I, like having a coffee or a beer with a friend, and they'll be like, yeah, I'm really excited about this thing. It's really cool. I'm going to be doing this thing. It's going to be brilliant. I help people to fix their back pain, because usually they're completely fucked with their backs. And like they've got all this tension and it sucks. And then they sit down to write an email. And when they sit down to write an email, it's as if they do the written version of the telephone voice. I don't know if you have this in your family, but my mum would talk to me like this. And then when the telephone rang, when we used to have like an old corded phone, like in the kitchen at our house as we grew up, and me and my sister would all run, oh, the phone's ringing, someone get the phone, before mobile phones and stuff, right? We used to run over, and my mum would go from like, yeah, kids, sit down, shut up, to, hello? Like, who's that? Who is this person answering the phone? Well, people do the same thing with their emails. They write in a professional way. The problem is, professional is code for soulless, untrustworthy, sterile. We can't do business and we can't buy from people if they're being soulless and sterile. We can only really engage with people if we trust them and we get to know the real person behind it. We understand their personality. That's the only way to do this. When you write, I just want you to write how you speak. Write as you speak. Type as you talk. And one of the other reasons to do that is because when people read anything, whether it's in a book or your emails, we all as human beings do a thing called subvocalization. That is, we hear the words in our heads. So if someone reads your words and they hear your words in their head and it sounds like a real person talking to them, the level of trust, the level of rapport, the level of desire to spend more time with you and potentially spend money with you goes up. It leaps up. So make sure we do that. Don't have the written equivalent to the telephone voice. A great way of understanding what this would look like, and you don't have to send these as this way, but what you can do is if you've got a recording of you talking, of you giving a speech, it must just be you. So maybe you've got a podcast or a YouTube video, or maybe you gave a presentation somewhere and it's just you talking for 30 minutes or more. 30 to 60 minutes is ideal. Go and grab the transcript of what you said, right? And then pop that into ChatGPT or Claude or one of the AIs and ask it to write an email about X topic, mimicking the tone of voice and the way that you speak from the sample that you've just given it. If you do that, you will then start to say, oh my God, this no longer looks stuffy and professional, right? And like corporate, but instead it feels like someone is writing to them. You'll see the patterns, right? And you'll only see the patterns because ChatGPT or the AI has identified them and shown them in front of you. Will it be perfect? No, there'll be some turns of phrases, some stuff in there, which will be like, I would never say that. That's fine. Look beyond that. One of my favorite techniques that I've ever used, and it's the way that I got good at writing as if it's writing to one person, is to literally imagine that I'm writing to a single person. Write an email as if it is a private email where you're literally giving that piece of advice or making that recommendation to somebody you would like text, like a friend or something, right? And the way you do this is you pick a friend. In my mind, when I was first learning this, one of my best friends that lived right across the street from me as I grew up in our house as a family was a guy called Brian, right? It was Brian's. The one thing I remember about Brian is as soon as we moved into that house, he came and knocked on the door and said, "Hey, I think you've got a son. Will he come and play?" We're the same age, right? And that his birthday is on Christmas Eve, right? That's the only two things. That's the two main things I've decided about Brian. I mean, we go out for dinner still very, very regularly. But so this, what we're going to do is we're going to imagine, okay, I'm going to write this email to Brian. So think about who your Brian is. Write that person's name and be like, "Hey, Brian. Hey, first name. Hi," however you would address them. I would just go, "Brian," or "Mate," "Bro," whatever your greeting is, right? And then write the email that you would write to them if you were recommending what it is that you do. So in this case, I might go, so rather than going, "Dear Brian, I have a recommendation that if you want to amplify your business to get more blah 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 blah," like it doesn't sound very good. It doesn't sound very colloquial. It doesn't sound very warm. It sounds very sterile. Whereas I just imagine I'm sending an email just to my friend Brian. I'll probably write something like, "Mate, I know you're trying to build your business right now. If you've got an email list of people who've inquired, you could defo be emailing them a few times a week." Like, how cool is that? I mean, then all you're going to do, once you've written as if it's personal, you then go back, because you're not like sending this live. You don't like, people don't receive your emails as you're typing them. Remember, you can go back and have a quick extra look at them. Because then what we're going to do is we're going to go back and clean it up so it's not too specific to Brian. So if I'd said, "Hey, how's your mum and your two brothers?" I probably would have taken that out, okay? The next thing I want you to try is I want you to try different lengths of email. So one day, try a short email. Then I want you to try an extra short email. Then a long email. Then an extra long email. And what you can do with these different lengths of email is they're going to give you the permission to see emails in different ways. Like, not all emails have to be really long. Not all emails have to be super short. They can be a variety. And it's that variety that keeps your audience interested because they're not quite sure what is going to happen when they open that email. The thing that stops people open your emails is if they can predict what's going to be inside of your email. If you are predictable, you are ignorable. If you are predictable, you're ignorable. Case in point, There are some people you know when their email lands in your inbox, you just see their first name or you see their name on that left-hand side, and you know that their emails are always really long. They're high value. They've got lots of content in them. You're going to find lots of value in them if you can make the time to read them. And that means sometimes those emails go unread because you didn't decide that now is a good time to read that email because it's going to be a dedication. Whereas when you receive emails from me, for example, you never know. Is it going to be super short with a quick tip? Is it going to be super short with a link to a video? Is it going to be really long and detailed with a whole lesson in it? You don't know. And one of the reasons you have to open that email is to find out. I want you to do the same thing. I want you to test those different lengths. And one of the best things to write in these emails to test these different lengths and to actually gel with your subscribers is tell them stories about the small things that are happening in your life, not just the big achievements, right? Not just, hey, I was speaking on stage with Ali Abdaal, and hey, I shared the stage with Ryan Dice, and we made this amount of money, and all the big stuff, or we nearly lost the business 3 different times because of this thing, and this accountant was a dickhead, and all those things are big stories, and they have a purpose, and they're inspiring stories, and they might be credibility stories, but actually they're not good for everyday use. The kind of stories I'm talking about really to put in your emails are the everyday stories that make you relatable so that people trust you. So right now, in case it's not obvious because of what I'm wearing, I'm making this video for you during a heat wave in the UK. And it is fucking boiling. And because in the UK, our houses don't tend to have AC, there's no air conditioning. So I have like a fan blowing over here, but it was making a noise, so I've had to turn it off. So I'm here recording this video for you during this heat wave, and I don't even know how hot it is. It's a ridiculous temperature. And that's why there's beads of sweat dropping off my face. That's kind of a story, right? That is a story. That tells you something relatable. Oh, I remember a time when I was stuck in a place I was really too hot. It's not inspiring, but it's relatable. The point of these stories is that you become a person who's very human, who goes through the same micro day-to-day struggles that they go through. Oh, my cat puked on the stairs. Okay, he's got a cat and it puked on the stairs. Okay, right? Or it's too hot. We've got no AC. The other day I was mowing the lawn and the battery for the lawnmower ran out halfway up the lawn. So now I have a lawn which is 2 different levels. Like all these small stories that are hyper relatable. Oh my gosh, I would hate that to happen. Oh my gosh, that has happened to me. Oh, that reminds me of something else. All these things conjure up in people's minds, but what's interesting is it conjures up images. And when people see images in their minds, they have emotions. When people feel things, they can buy things. So the next thing I want you to do before we actually do any of this, to actually get going with this, the very first thing I want you to do is to decide which days you are going to email. Don't listen to anybody who says you must email on these days. The truth is, if you don't make the decision for yourself when you're going to email, you are going to probably fall off the wagon. You are going to stop emailing. This needs to be a decision you make for yourself. For me, I'll tell you what my personal habit is in case this helps. I've found it easier to pick up a habit and keep doing something long term if it's something that I do every day as a routine. So that's why, like, brushing your teeth, you never forget to do that, doing your hair, going in the shower, all those things are easy to remember to do because they happen every single day at a certain time. I always have dinner about this time, I always have lunch at that time. These are easy routines. But for you, you might find that Monday, Tuesday, Friday works for you. All you've got to do is decide. Then just do it. Once you've decided which days of the week you are going to email, do it. Even if you don't feel like it, just send something. Even if it's bad, even if it's terrible, because I want you to write in the mood for that day. Some days I'll send an email when I'm feeling, I just can't be bothered. It's too hot. I've got no energy. I hardly slept last night because I couldn't sleep because of the heat. Plus the cats were meowing because they were too hot. I was awake all night. Got 2 hours sleep. I feel terrible. And that's the mood of the email you get. And then the next day, I've had some lovely sleep. I've had some great ideas. I started the day off with a really good conversation and I'm feeling really inspired. That's the mood of the email you get. What happens then? When people receive emails and they feel the different moods from you, they feel the different versions of you, that's when you become trustworthy. Like you're not this perfectly clean, perfectly polished, hair and makeup, Instagram version of yourself, but you're this real person who has shitty days, has great days, has days when they admit they're wrong, has days when they share something that you'd never thought of before. That's when people become really real. This is how you stand out in an email inbox that is full of AI-generated emails. It's by writing in your mood that day. So just do it. Not only is this going to help you do it, it's going to help you do this even better and stand out. And of course, at the end of every email, put in just a line about how they can take the next step with you. By the way, if you want to book a call, a chat about this, click here and take them to your calendar booking system. Or click here to read more about the program or the services. Just tell them what to do next. So that's how you do it. I hope you found this really useful. If you've got any questions about any part of this that you'd like me to go deeper into, let me know in the comments. I do love reading every single one of them, and I do reply to every single one of them. I'm so grateful for having you here. I hope this was really, really useful. If you want to see some ways to build your email list, because obviously you want more and more people on your email list to see these emails that you're getting, that you're sending, then definitely check out this video where I show you a whole bunch of different places you can go and find more email subscribers for your email list. And I'll catch you soon.